Alrighty, y'all, what's going on? What's going on? If you don't know, now you do know. You're officially tuned into a very special edition of the HFWB Podcast Series. This is your host, Clifton Pope, and with me today, I have a very special person who's become a very special friend, thanks to, ironically enough, my girlfriend, the lovely Miss Emily Espinosa. I love you so much, baby, for connecting me with such a wonderful person who I never would thought we had so much more in common than we realized based off of just literally one conversation. And the key word that kind of brings all of us, both of us together, I should say, is cannabis and the courage behind it and the most important use of it in everyday lives just to make the world a better place and to most importantly bring world peace that what we all strive for. I personally believe that with cannabis, we'll have the key to world peace a whole lot quicker than most people realize. And the person who I'm about to bring on is definitely an advocate for it, for sure. I mean, she literally has a campaign and a book and a whole program behind courage with cannabis, and she's connected to multiple doctors, lawyers, nurses. I can go on and on as far as the list of people she's connected to. With that being said, I want to welcome my new friend, the lovely Miss Candy Flores, or some would call her Candy Flowers, to the HFWB Podcast Series. Candy, how's it going so far?
Good. Thank you for having me on here, Clifton. I appreciate the love and support.
No, of course, Candy, anytime. For anyone who is listening to the HFWB Podcast Series and who wants to know who you are as an individual, who you are as a person, and how did your overall journey started, how would you best describe it to those listening?
So, born and raised here in Texas, and I'm a big part of Courage in Cannabis, the book. We've got, like you mentioned, a lot of involvement with doctors, lawyers, advocates, activists, and the list goes on and on. But my story behind it is very, definitely very touching. It has been a long journey, but very well worth it. My passion for the plant and for the healing of plant medicine has just grown tremendously and continues to grow as I educate myself and more certifications on coaching, and I feel a lot of it has to do with the education on it and being able to share with others that are not at the same level, because we're all at different levels at different times, but we all have the same goal. We want to live a healthy life. We
Yes.
want to be here longer with our loved ones, and of course, with being said, my story behind in the book describes what and how I went through along my journey. Of course, it's a portion of my story, but it was a big step for me. Uh, the best thing about it is I'm still here, and cannabis saved my life, and from 18 medications to one, and just the rest is natural health.
And you touched on something very important, Candy, natural health. I always like to consider cannabis God's plant. I mean, God put it here for a reason, and there's people who've joked about it before, but there's a lot of truth behind it. I remember a comedian, Cat Williams, said one time that cannabis is God's plan, and it was put on this earth to help people overcome the struggle. And it's like struggle with health, for instance. I mean, we've talked about this in our last conversation we had. Cannabis is not about just getting high anymore. It's creating jobs. It's saving people's lives. I mean, I would consider it part of the Holy Trinity, along with, of course, prayer, meditation, and cannabis. Those are my three things that I currently live by on a daily basis. And like you alluded to, it saved your life. I mean, it's saving many people's lives, like anxiety, depression, stress, insomnia, just cancer. I can go on and on as far as the beauty of what cannabis is doing. And I personally am like a silent advocate of it myself. I mean, I try to keep it concealed, but for people who really, really know me, know how much I believe in it, and for those who don't, I mean, for those listening, hey, I'm a silent advocate for cannabis because it saves people's lives, and it's literally the closest thing we have at bringing world peace within itself. How did you personally get involved in cannabis? I know you mentioned you were going from like medication to medication and stuff like that. What made you decide to turn in the direction of cannabis and encourage others to do the same based on your overall experience?
So how I got involved was with my health conditions and my autoimmune disorders. I have severe chronic pain with my fibromyalgia. I developed CRPS and other issues that increase the intensity of my pain. Back in 2016, they were going in to revise my pain pump. I was on morphine 24/7 for 5 years. And a lot above that, I still had oral medication that at times I had to increase due to the severity of the pain. Uh, Long story short, morphine pump, body rejected it, didn't get replaced, didn't get revised, it got replaced. Of course, I was under, so that decision was made without my consent. Long story short, once it rejected, I went through withdrawals. I went through 4 surgeries. They had to go in, clean out, the severity of the infections and so forth. My body just kept rejecting and rejecting. So my incision kept opening up due to the rejection and the complications that were going on internally. So after the 4th surgery, basically my family was told to keep me comfortable. There was really nothing else they could do for me, with what was going on internally, and then that caused the withdrawals. And when I first started, I just saw relief. I didn't really see the long-term effect, it was doing to my body. And then again, I wasn't educated on cannabis at the time. I knew nothing about it. So when that happened, they had to remove everything, and so I went cold turkey. And the withdrawals were really severe and so forth. At that time, my body gave up, and I as well gave up, and was ready to, to just face reality. And if it was the end, then it was the end. So I was offered cannabis, and I figured at that time it was, I didn't have anything to lose. I was already at, the end of what I thought was the end. Yes. And I tried it. My husband would give me, and it was actually at the time, I didn't know exactly what it was. I just needed relief. I wouldn't get out of bed. I used the cane, I used the walker. So when he started giving me the RSO on my tongue, and he would give me just a tiny bit with a toothpick, I started seeing the difference. I started getting out of bed. I started, the pain was being relieved. So from that time on, I was able to coach myself through the first year. And after the year, I realized I came forward with it because I didn't want anybody to know, because I was ashamed. I didn't know, pretty much anything about it. I was green. I, coached myself through it, educated myself, and I saw not only what it was doing for my chronic pain, but as well for several nodules that I had in my thyroid. When my oncologist said, you keep doing what you're doing because the size of your, nodule has changed from a small size fruit to the pink, your pinky now, I then realized, wow, it's not only treating my chronic pain, it's treating other issues that I wasn't using the plant medicine for, but it was just amazing. So I continued, and that was just 1 year after using, and that I came forward. And along that year, I was able to wean off the 18 medications I was on top of my morphine pump. So from the 18 medications, I'm down to 1. That was 2017 of January when I first started this journey, and I'm here today, and I keep striving and sharing with others. I got my cannabis CBD certification coaching, so I teach others and guide them through their journey and show them how not only wean off of medications, but for them to understand that we as patients using it medicinally, we're not needing the high THC levels. You know,
Yes.
we're not high. We're not needing that psychoactive activity. We need more, and it just depends on a daily basis on your issues. You know, whether it's pain
Yeah.
and insomnia or anxiety. But we are able to, with other cannabinoids and the combination with the THC, we're able to function and not be high.
Yes. Yes. And it's a special gift too. I mean, it's like me personally, well, I use cannabis mainly for three things. I use it for relaxing my muscles, especially since me working out all the time. It helps me relax after a workout. It helps me calm my anxiety and stress levels down without question. And most importantly, it just helps me get like the best sleep ever. It's like if I don't smoke before I go to sleep, or if I don't smoke to start the day, it's just that feeling is it's like that withdrawal effect. It's like you don't feel right, something's off, and then once it gets into your system, it's like, okay, I'm back to my regular normal self. Now I could continue to be productive throughout the course of the day. And based on the journey that you told me, Candy, it's like one, you're a walking miracle, and two, you're definitely defining courage to just face those convictions as far as, hey, I'm not ashamed of using cannabis. I can teach others that it's more than just getting high. There's medical benefits in it that's been around for quite some time that people seem to keep ignoring, especially all these big pharma companies who want to continue to make billions of dollars off medications that create all these different side effects when you could literally replace all those medications with cannabis and then boom, no side effects. You're basically hungry, happy, and sleepy, as they say. Which leads me to asking you, what led you to come up with the book Courage and Cannabis? Like, what's the idea behind that? What do you want people to get out of that book exactly for those listening to the podcast?
So, Courage and Cannabis is an anthology book, and in book one, there's 18 authors. Dr. Bridget Williams is our visionary author, and so she's treated a lot of patients with, with cannabis and coached them through it as well. So she saw the meaning of cannabis being used medicinally and how patients she was seeing results with with cannabis in her state, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So I met her along my journey. I met her in Dallas probably about 2 years ago, going on 3.
Uh-huh.
And she, we talked about my story, asked, if I would, be something that I'd be interested in sharing my story in the book, Courage and Cannabis. At the time, we were both, okay, we're going to do it. Then all of a sudden it's happening, and it was a great experience. We got #1 bestseller, #1 bestseller international. And so along book one, we were able to utilize our resources and be able to see the big picture. We wanted not only to just do one book. Courage and Cannabis is actually, it's not just a book of authors. We have become a family. We're there to support each other, and it's others don't understand that you share your story, but your journey's not over. You're still healing and then reliving it. I personally had a PTSD flare up when book one, released, and I was able to manage it, but I gained the confidence to be able to share with others while this is going on that it's gonna happen. You're gonna have to relive that trauma to share your story. So there's now in book 2, there's a total of 39 authors, and these authors are, from the stories are from, like we mentioned earlier, doctors, lawyers, patients, advocates, caregivers, legacies. Mike Tyson's also in book 2. Ed Rosenthal, Miss Kindness. We've got some, very, very inspirational stories in there. And by telling the stories, I feel like, I mean, because we can educate and educate and educate, but not everyone's at the same level. So we feel that telling the short stories, they're able to relate. And at that time, sharing, with their loved ones or neighbors or, coworkers, because these stories are real.
Yeah.
We are the research that they're looking for.
Right.
We're walking around living research. And so,
Yeah, and it's incredible because it's like it's something about like those real life stories that like help a certain audience gravitate towards as far as like, hey, this is what this person's going through, this is what it's all about, and now I have a better understanding as far as where that person is coming from. Is there a particular story in mind that sticks out to you to this day to where within your journey as far as just journaling through, of course, the cannabis world to where it touched you so much to where you'll never forget about it? Is there a certain story that comes to mind that sticks with you?
there's many. There's
Is there
many,
one
many.
particularly
But
off the top of your head?
I would say mental health. Mental
Mm,
health would be a big, big,
yeah.
because
Yes,
I
it is.
feel there is so much of it right now. It's very common. We
Yes, it
see it
is.
not only in our elderly, we see it in our, adolescents. We're seeing it a lot in schools, and I feel we're lacking that education there. That not only for the education part, but for the awareness. You know,
Mm,
because these kids out there, they're trying things left and right. And if
yeah.
they're not educated on it, then that's when the plant is getting, a bad name, because they feel they're just naming it. Oh, they're vaping cannabis, or they're doing but no, look more into it, get educated on it, and start introducing your kids not to the plant, but to the benefits, and because that's their
Mm,
future.
yeah.
I feel like that would help a lot. So mental health has really, really touched me in tremendous ways, just because with all the shootings, with just so much of it going on. I feel that people would benefit from it. And it's not, when we say cannabis, it's not just cannabis, the cannabinoids come from it, so a lot of
Yeah.
times learning the endocannabinoid system and just kind of learning a little bit on it. And I speak about this, to loved ones all the time, and family, friends, and I tell them, you don't have to use product. You don't, just educate yourself on it and support
Yeah.
those that are using it medicinally, because you may need it someday. Your grandmother may need it someday, or your child. So many kids suffer from seizures.
Yes.
Um, Mental health, and then another one would be in children, seizures. It really touches home to me. Never have I had anyone close to me suffer from that, but I've seen it in pediatrics. Being in pediatrics in the
Right.
past, I've seen it. And the mental health with the ADHD. And a lot of parents don't understand. Not only parents, but adults, that mental health is not. It's not bad. It's not a bad classification once you understand that it's anxiety, it's ADHD, OCD. It's just
Depression.
the title. A lot of people think, no, they don't want people to know, but I feel people need to step out of their comfort zone and learn, because we could be so much happier in life. When you're
Yeah.
balancing your own system, you you can see a difference. Like you mentioned earlier, you're more productive, you're happier. That's what you want, and who else would not want that? You know, I, it's not bad. We just need to understand it.
And to add to everything that you're saying, Candy, and I agree with you 100%, we were just raised to think that it was bad. That, and we weren't educated properly enough to the benefits, like you were just alluding to. Like, most people don't realize that we technically have endocannabinoids that are located somewhere within our brain that allows us to experience the effects of cannabis. So it's meant for us to have cannabis basically in our
Right.
system based off of that alone. And then when you factor in, of course, how it helps out with seizures for kids and everything, I've seen multiple videos to where kids are suffering from seizures, and once they get a little bit of that cannabis in them, it's like they come back down to earth. They're like smiling again. They're happy. They're laughing, and it's like the education factor is more critical than ever because it's like there's like we've been talking about this whole time. There's so many benefits behind it, and if you educate yourself on it, there may come a time to where your close friend or a loved one, like you said, Candy, may need it, and it's like then you'll at least know what to do and how to do it, and of course how to help them find that relief and to help heal themselves from within, because that's what cannabis is pretty much all about, helping us heal ourselves from within from a natural perspective. Because just for the record, it is a plant. You don't cook, last time I checked, you don't cook cannabis like all these other drugs in the laboratories. You literally grow it like a plant, and you're supposed to treat it as such. For those who are listening to the HFWB Podcast Series and have their doubts and everything about cannabis, as a matter of fact, that was actually leading to my next question. For those, Candy, who are listening, right, who are still having all the doubts about it, despite all the benefits and all the research and all the education about it, what would be your key piece of advice you would tell someone right now who has their doubts on cannabis? For those listening.
I would say read the book. Purchase the books are $20. Purchase the book. You may not understand the level of learning right straight off the bat of how your body is producing your own cannabinoids. Because we have the endocannabinoid system, so we're already producing it daily. So what a lot of people are needing with these deficiencies and disease and chronic illnesses, they are needing to balance out their own system. So once they consume, they're balancing out and supplementing and being able to be where they normally should be with the endocannabinoid system. I say, or advise, if you don't understand and you're not ready to go to that level, purchase the book, and you're able to see, from it treating addiction to seizures to kids that weren't meant to live. They were at their last days, and their parents were told, your child is not going to make it, or they're going to make it to this age, and they're still here. They're kicking because of cannabis. Yes, it was a fight for, to get it for them and so forth, but very well worth it. So there's many, many stories that you can relate to, whether, like I said, whether it's a child or, an adult, they're in the book.
So I think if we could take anything about what just Candy said, y'all need to go purchase Courage and Cannabis Volume 1 and 2 to get a better education and a better understanding on how it can impact someone's life for the better. I feel like that's very well said. And I myself am going to be definitely purchasing a copy of those two books very soon. And I'm encouraging everyone listening to the HFWB Podcast Series to do the same thing. Because it's all about natural living and natural healing. And what a better way to do that than through the power of cannabis, right? Now, Candy, we're basically at the point of my podcast where I basically ask everybody like a list of questions, and I'll, of course, tweak them a little bit for yourself. My first question for you, Candy, is what's the first thing you do or think of every single day that you wake up?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. What is the first thing you do or think of every single morning that you wake up every day?
The first thing I do as soon as I wake up is I start my daily regimen. With my illnesses and my conditions, it takes me about 15 to 30 minutes to be able to get out of bed. So as soon as I wake up, I consume. And of course, and I consume discreetly. I don't, I'm not a smoker due to several issues that I have, lung issues. but
Mm-hmm.
I consume discreetly. So I use edibles, I use tinctures, I use pomades and my lotions, just depending on my daily, need. But as soon as I wake up, I'm consistent and I'm committed to my regimen because that's how I'm able to be productive and, get out of bed and be able to live the best quality of life possible.
Very, very well said. Very well said. Way to stay consistent to that resume, which is something that a lot of people need to do a whole lot more of, definitely. My next question to
And
you is, go ahead.
I also feel that people need to understand too with my daily regimen comes my meditation, my stretching, and
Mm.
it's I stick to it because that's my wellness,
Yeah,
and my life is worth it.
exactly. It's just something about that personal development morning routine. It's like I tell people this all the time. If I could recommend one of 10 books to read for everybody, it would be The Miracle Morning by Al Haraj, where he describes
Hmm.
the perfect morning routine on how to start your day before 8 a.m., like you alluded to. Meditation, like moments of silence, like prayer, meditation,
Hmm.
affirmations, visualizations, writing in your journal, reading a little bit. I do that basically every single day, and it drives Emily crazy as much as I do it on a regular basis. But she
Yes.
knows how important it is for me to where it's like I'm able to function more clearly
Yes.
once I do all of those things. It's a routine and just staying consistent with it. I definitely agree with you on that. My next question for you, Candy, is when you think of the words health and wealth, right? What are your personal definitions of those two words in your eyes?
When I think of both of those, I think of myself. I feel an individual as an individual, my body with the health and wealth, that's 100% of my life.
Mm,
To keep moving forward, because we're just starting off with grandkids, like and I want to be able to be there and be be their guidance and, and at some point and be able to know that I tried my best, and didn't give up for what I'm, standing for because of the value of my health.
mhm. That's a good answer, and that's a good way to look at it, actually. My next question for you, Candy, is as far as the importance of like education and stuff, how much that means to you when you think of the word education? Like, what first comes to your mind?
When education comes to my mind is I feel that in my eyes on my journey, I have kept going forward. It was never enough. I wanted more. The evolvement of it was just, and to this day, I still take classes. I feel like I've never learned enough. There's so much to learn on it. And the education part is as well part of my journey because not only am I educating myself, but I'm also sharing with my community and wanting to do more for my community and educate, because that's big for me, because that's going to help in the stigma as we're doing that along our way.
Got you. It's like they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, as they say. Definitely. We're actually going to transition now, Candy, at a little bit of an either or segment, just to see which one you would pick out of either or, of course. My first one is, would you rather choose loyalty or respect?
Respect.
Interesting. Got you. Would you rather, for instance, live in space or live in the ocean?
In space.
Would you rather be famous and poor or anonymous and rich?
Famous and poor.
Got you. Since of course we are talking about cannabis, I have to throw this one at you just because to kill the cat of curiosity within me. Do you prefer sativas or indicas? And before you answer that, let me explain this to the people listening to the HFWB podcast series. Sativas are more to, of course, energize you to make your mind more alert during the day versus indicas. They'll help you stay grounded, relax, help you fall asleep more easily. But with that being said, which would you prefer, Candy? Sativas or indicas?
I'm a sativa kind of girl.
There's nothing
And
wrong with
I,
sativas.
yeah, and a reason behind it, but definitely, sativa. Due
Nah.
to there's a lot of brain fog involved when you have, different chronic illnesses. So that's
Mm,
able, chronic fatigue syndrome comes, so a lot of what comes along with my health issues, the sativa plant helps a lot.
understood. Understood. I have nothing against sativas as well, especially when I'm like busy and I'm always constantly on the go. But personally, I'm more of a indica person because it's like the effects of it. I mean, I'm still able to function off of indicas, but it's like, that slow motion. It allows me to see everything like in slow motion to where I can be able to like pick it apart more easier. And plus, when I need to get some sleep, it helps me sleep tremendously
Oh
without
yeah,
question. For sure, for sure. Um,
absolutely.
I don't know what, huh?
No, I said absolutely.
Oh, okay, okay. My bad. I don't know why Candy, but I just get this vibe that I feel like you're very in tune with music for some reason. I don't know why, but I just have that feeling, which is why I want to ask you, would you rather sing to every song or dance to every song?
Actually, dancing's very good for the soul. So
Mm.
I would probably pick dancing.
That's understood. That's understood. Now, picture this situation, Candy. You're on a deserted island, stranded, right? And if you could listen to five music artists, any genre, their whole entire catalog of music for the rest of your life, who would they be and why?
Five,
Anybody, anybody you can
five
think of,
artists.
any genre.
Gosh, I am not very familiar with by name, but I would say some of the top ones that I have that come to mind are going to be, let's see, I do like The Weeknd. I do like, gosh, really caught me off guard on this. Not my specialty.
It's okay. Just whatever comes to mind. I know you said the weekend, which
The
that's good enough
Weeknd.
within
I,
itself.
gosh, I also like Bad Bunny. Um, gosh, I like Shakira. Mm,
And dancing is good for the soul. You can't go wrong with Shakira and Bad Bunny for that alone.
yeah, J Balvin, I think is his name.
J Balvin, that's pretty good too. Okay.
I think Balvin or and
Got one more.
and lately I've been listening to a lot of Jamie Fine. He's not big yet, but the music touches my soul, the words, the lyrics. Different
And
type of
honestly,
music.
there's nothing wrong with that. It's about the music that touches your soul at the end of the day. And with that playlist right there, Candy, I feel like you're definitely going to be dancing your life away. And I feel like somebody will notice that and hear it somewhere and probably would want to come join you for a nice dance and then take you off of that stranded island once and for all. That's actually a very cultural playlist now that I really think about it, for sure. And I know this about you, Candy, from our conversations that we've had before. You're very well connected. You're always on the go traveling, which leads to me asking you this. What's the favorite place that you've traveled to so far, and where would you like to travel to that you haven't been before?
So the most favorite place I'd say is Colorado. Just I like the atmosphere. Um, the air is so clean, and I can actually feel nature there. I can. There's just it's so much to the nature part of it. Being able to connect. Or I'm able to connect to Earth a lot more than I can here. Whether it's nighttime with the stars or, during the day on a short hike or, it's just, it's beautiful. And then one that I haven't been to that I would love to travel to would be Canada.
That's not bad. I mean, that's because I used to have a cousin that lived in Colorado, and they said exactly what you just said, Candy. It's like something about being in tune with the nature, the mountains, the air, the atmosphere. It's something very relaxing within itself that's very slept on. And I wouldn't mind going to Canada either. What part of Canada, if you don't mind me asking? Like just Canada in general?
Yeah, I still haven't figured that part out. I have some kind of connection that is pulling me. I don't know why. I don't know where in Canada, but there is, right, the universe, and then also because like I said, so many different stories have touched my heart, and I want to be able to, before I leave this planet, to be able to connect with them and the beauty of life, that it's precious how they're pulling through with the power of the plant and still doing so much more, on that side of it with, their type of diagnosis and so forth, so.
That is true, without a doubt. Whenever you're not doing all the things that you're doing on a regular basis, because I know you're super busy all the time, Candy, what are some of your personal favorite hobbies you like to do that many people may not know you like to do?
Journal and read.
Simple, straightforward, and right to the point on there, and that's something I'm right there with you on as well. I do love my fair time of journaling and reading a lot of books. What are some of your 3 favorite books that you have read that has impacted you the most, if you could think of 3 books?
Weed Mom has been one of the books that has impacted me, and I think the other one is, I don't remember the name. That was it was an Audible I had gotten, but it has to do with our energy. I can't remember the name of the book, but that is another one that has touched me. I'll have to get back with you on the name, but as well as A Woman's Guide to Cannabis. That was a good book that touched me. And those are 3 that I can, off the top of my head.
I hear you, Candy. And my last question for you before we wrap everything up, of course, if you had the opportunity, right, to go back in time and talk to yourself 10 years ago, so to speak, what would you tell yourself? And at the same time, where do you see yourself along with your entire journey that you're on in the cannabis world within the next 10 years?
If I could go back in time 10 years back, I would definitely do things differently, and no offense for doctors or pharmaceuticals, at times we do need them, but I would change I don't know how to put it, but I would definitely change the way that I treated my body and put my body first by educating myself and I would have changed things, not getting on pharmaceuticals, not because all that caused an addiction that I wasn't even aware that was going to happen, because I was just looking at relief. So I would definitely change that, and not be guided by everything else in society. I would have looked out. I would change things by a different perspective in medicine, for sure. And 10 years from now, I see myself doing. Right now I'm in the process of trying to grow the community in our area, and offer events and bring in speakers, and that's where I see myself 10 years from now, is not only doing it here but doing it in other states, just to be able to connect and offer the support. It's not just about you're hosting an event to sell product, or it's about the support, awareness, education, and just growing together, and being there to empower each other.
And I agree with that. It's all about raising awareness for a good cause behind a very powerful mission that can gravitate towards others, to where not only they believe in the mission and support the mission, they're able to pass it on to someone else who may need it, which is very, very important, I feel like. And I feel like that's how we can have more unity in the community, not just in our own communities, but in any community across the state, across the country, all across the world. It can be done, and it definitely will be done. But with that being said, Candy, let the people who are listening to the HFWB Podcast Series know how they can contact you, where they can get the Courage in Cannabis Volume 1 and 2, for those who are intrigued and excited about all this wonderful information.
Thank you. I can be reached on Instagram at canflow710, and it's CANFLO 710, or on Facebook under my first and last name, Candy Flores. Also on LinkedIn, and you can send me a private message, and I can get the book, either delivered to you or mailed to you, and as well available for book signings for local, businesses, or bookstores. Or there will be a book signing here in the near future at Joint Venture in Corpus. But yeah, I'll have the books on hand, and they can purchase there, or just reach out to me.
Yes, and I will definitely be at that book signing at Joint Ventures. Just let me know when and where, and I'm there, because I definitely need to get me a copy of Courage in Cannabis Volume 1 and 2. And like I said before, for everybody listening to the HFWB Podcast Series, I encourage you to do the very same as well. Just for the importance of, like we've been talking about, the education, the benefits. Just never stop learning about the power of the plant. And yes, I'm going to reiterate this. Cannabis is a plant, for everyone listening. We need it more in our systems to feed the endocannabinoids in our brain, and so on and so forth. It's all about natural living and natural healing from within. And I feel like that is the best way we can end this episode. And with that being said, Candy, thank you so much for dedicating time out of your busy schedule to simply just bless us with an appearance on the HFWB Podcast Series. I look forward to working with you more in the nearby future. I could sense it and feel it, most importantly.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show.
No, of course. Thank you very much for your time, Candy, and for everyone listening to the HFWB Podcast Series. This is your host, Clifton Pope, and with that being said, y'all stay healthy, wealthy, and blessed. And until next time, y'all, peace and love.
Thank you.